There's a lot of like trying out and failing in that. And there's also quite a few that have set up successful projects. And then there's those who are still seeking. Because during the year here I think you become aware of something, of a kind of life that you can lead that is like really appealing. But for many of them it means that they go out here and they feel like now I've only just started. Like some of them come here with the hope to figure out what they want to do in their life, but then after the year they have more questions than answers. So they go out and they explore some more. And it's the funny or the interesting thing is YIP only being in its 5th year, it's really hard to tell what the actual impact is, that this program has on people. And one of the difficulties that we have for finding funding, for example, is quantifying what our alumni do. So that's a great question. It's a challenging question because we cannot give really good numbers, as in 60% of our alumni go on to set up their own entrepreneurial ventures that creates social change in the world and stuff like that. It's one of our challenges really.
So you're still working on the curriculum and the design of the course. It's still an evolving process.
Yeah. And I think it will always be. I mean, the moment that YIP stagnates and becomes like this is YIP, and what we notice now, the first couple of years, people really were aware that they had to co-create their own experience, and they were actually responsible for the experience that they had, and that created really transformative experiences for people. But now, our main way of PR in the world is actually mouth to mouth. People telling about this experience that they had. So people hear from a friend or a friend of a friend, I had this incredible experience, 10 years in JARNA, you should totally do it. So people now come here with an expectation, if I go through this program for these 10 months, I will be a different person when I come out. Mm-hmm. So now our challenge is to remind them, the reason that there is a transformation or that you come out as a different person is that you have to step into it and take ownership over your own education. You cannot sit back and just consume the content and sit in class and expect at the end of the year that you're a different person. It's an active work. You have to bring effort. And the biggest part of that is just to be present in classes and to observe what's going on in you, in the teacher, in your classmates and stuff, in the houses. I think that's what makes it quite unique, is that every moment actually is the learning. The living in the communities, in the community houses is learning. All the extracurricular stuff that they do is learning. The internships is learning.
What kind of internship?
What kind of?
Internship.
Potentially anything. At least that was what it was like when I was a participant. Now there are certain guidelines. If it brings you in physical, if there's a possibility that you will be exposed to physical danger, then you're not allowed to go. So war zones, for example, are very and these are guidelines. So it's always if participants has a really clear idea of why they want to go there, and they can convince us that they will be safe and that it will be for their development, then we can agree to that. But not the guideline is now that we encourage people to really not go alone, but to go together. And they go everywhere. They mostly go to organizations that are doing some kind of social change in the world,
Okay. What is your teaching system here? Do you have, like in the workshops, as you told us, is there a teacher and a class and a speech, or is it interactive? Or
it's different from week to week, yeah. Okay. It's different from week to week. But there is almost always actually a teacher, so some specialist that comes outside. Sometimes it's really just lecturing, but then there's usually also some kind of reflection on that. This week, for example, is quite different in the sense that it's almost like a conversation that they have with the teacher. They engage in a conversation, question and answer. Often it's very interactive. I mean, they never sit like on a bench like this where they listen to a lecture. There's always like a circle or some kind of a The circle is actually the circle is the standard format for the classroom. So each morning we set up a circle, unless the contributor, the teacher of that day, wishes for another kind of setup.
And do you have dropouts or like people who are really like leaving the program?
It's definitely happened. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, in my year, there was one person who went back home to New York State because it was too intense, and because of just personal struggles that he had. There was also someone who left and then came back. It's also happened that people have been asked to leave the program for also very specific reasons. Yeah, so it happens. It happens that people step out.
How much is it to follow a program? What's the contribution of the students if they have to pay you?
They go through an application process, and it's a series of questions that actually pulses their motivation to do the program. So that we're trying to look for the people who are actually really ready to co-create the program. I haven't been part of that process myself, actually. I haven't been part of like going through the applications and deciding. So I think there are other people who can answer that question better. But there's also something in trying to create the diversity in the kind of people who come. And yeah, I think we are also looking for people who have some kind of previous life experience. So we try to avoid people who come straight from high school, for example. And then we ask questions about: do you have a project that you want to be working on? Are you looking for a project that you want to be working on, or are you really looking for orientation for yourself in the world? And then they also do a video interview, so we get a sense of who they are as a person, or that we can actually see them speak and so forth. And then we have a set of questions. For example, what do you see the major challenges for humanity to be in the next decade? What skills do we need to develop in order to meet these challenges? If everything would go according to your wishes, where would you be in 10 years? These kind of questions that give us an idea of the kind of person they are.
And what's the financial contribution? Like, what do they have? Do they pay a fee or?
Yeah, so in a sense, yep, it's free. Because the cost that they pay, which is 75,000 Swedish crowns, raised this year through, just according to the inflation, to 85,000. Covers their living costs, their food, their course materials, and the transportation.
85,000
Swedish crowns. So that would be
10,000 euros.
Yeah, a little less than 10,000 euros. Yeah. So all the other aspects, the organization, the cost of running the organization, the honorary for the contributors, the staff, wages, and so forth, has to be fundraised. And that money comes in, traditionally it came in through a set of foundations who contributed with quite large amounts of money, but they did that because they believed in the program and they wanted to support it for 3 years to get it to set up and to prove itself in the world. And so now they are slowly backing down, and the contributions become less and less each year. So the financial picture of YIP is one on an organization level is at the moment is a huge challenge to raise that amount of money. Because the actual cost per participant is double of the fee. Well, I know not double. It's another 60 or 70% on top of the fee that they pay. So a few days ago, actually the Friends campaign was launched, and the idea of that is to make YIP the first crowd-funded free education in the world. So we're looking for 1,000 people contributing 1,000 crowns each year. So 1,000 people contributing 120 euros each year. That would raise 1 million crowns, and that would cover the rest of the cost of the program. And that's so important because YIP is a completely free education. There's no influence from government or business.
Because yesterday we heard that in Swedish it's not allowed to pay for education.
That's correct. Yeah. So
it's just for the food and for the
exactly. Okay. And often, especially for Europeans, or I think it's often like, oh wow, it sounds like a lot of money when you say 85,000 Swedish crowns, 10,000 euros. But if you are a student at university, the costs that you have